If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell icon to get the latest updates.
So in the interest of time, I'll get started because we have a lot of things to cover today.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll pick up from where we left yesterday. So we discussed a number of functions of the calculated fields, and we left over the substring text because we have to really see it in action. So one thing we have noticed the substring text, as name suggests, is allow us to substring the values, the text fields, or any of the fields in Workday based on the delimiters we set. So there are 4 type of delimiters. One is the before delimiter, after delimiter, between 2 delimiters, and also there's something called as text position. So today we'll be going to the tenant and see how it really looks like. So the first step will be to again use the task create calculated field, and I'm going to create one as substring text, maybe home address, and this is going to be, let's say, first space. Okay, the business object that I'm looking at is worker again, because again, the home address is based off worker, and the function that I'm looking at is substring text. Okay, so if you see here, there are 4 fields that we are looking at: text field, substring type, that is after a delimiter, and the delimiter value, that what should be the criteria to basically substring it, and the direction that we want to move it forward or backwards. So the field that we are looking at is address. Let's see what values we have here. I think we looked at this field yesterday as well. So I think the full address, it's cal field, so we'll not use this one. What are we looking at? We are looking at yeah, primary address full. This is fine. So first we'll be looking at before a delimiter. So as soon as I get a single space, the first space, delimit the text after that. That's what I'm looking at. So before a delimiter says substring the text which is there before this delimiter of single space and move it in the forward direction. So let's see this in action while we actually add this to a report. So we created one report yesterday. I think I'm going to use that again, which is, what was it? Test AA or something? Oh, JD. We don't have it. Oh, it's here. Okay, so we'll be using the report that we were using yesterday to test our fields. So I'm going to just add this report and add a field that we just created. Okay, so I'm going to add the field called as primary address full, which is the main field, just to see that how things actually look like, and the one that we just created as well, which is st home add first place. I've just copied this name and pasted it here. I'm going to run this report. Oh, I don't know it or what. I'm sorry, I'm just doing some operations things so that I can have the access to run this. Okay, I should not have the option to move me to run this. So we have added the fields that we just substring and the main field also that we substring, and we'll see in action that how they look like. So if you're seeing it blank, that means that employee doesn't have an address. So I'll just skip these ones and I will just sort it. Okay, now I hope you can see the difference between the two fields. So the XYZ new line Chicago comma space. Now the value after space is now not anymore as part of the field that we have created. XYZ after XYZ there is a new line entered. It's not a space. That's why it's not substring the new line characters. It's just substrings from the delimiter that we have set, which is the space. That's what happens, right, with everyone. If you look at the walls, this one, the wall exterior Chicago. So the first space we have received is here. So anything after this, the first space has not been including, and only the part before the first space is included. So you can basically look at all the other ones. I'll quickly show you one shortcut how to, if I have to really go to my field again. So this is a shortcut that you can use to navigate to your calculated field. It's called CF colon and the name of the calculated field which you created. And I'm gonna just right click this, create it, open this in a new tab. I want to create another one, but apart from the before a delimiter, I want a after a delimiter here. So what best I can do? I can go to the related action of this. Instead of creating whole new thing, I'll have an option to copy this field also. So I'll copy this, give it a new name, SD home address, and what do you call it? After first space. Yeah. And what change I'm doing, I'm just going to change it to after delimiter now. A delimiter will still remain the same. It's called single space. Now we are looking at the same thing but different way, and the value will be different because now if you look at, let's say, this example, right, it's going to still move in the forward direction, look for the first space, but now it's going to substring the text which was basically after the delimiter. So it will include only York NY10001 and not XYZ new. So it will basically eliminate this text and leave the other ones. So yeah. So this is what I have just created. I'm going to add it to the report and I'm going to show you how it looks like. I'm going to add this field in middle to give you a better look at it. Okay, I'm running it now. Hmm. I'm just basically sorted this in descending order to see, and it will neglect all the empty ones. Okay, now we have it. So this is the after the delimiter thing, where we have actually eliminated the values of 1, 2, 3 new, and this is the uh, before the delimiter thing. So the delimiter here we have defined a single space. So look at it in a manner, and we're moving in the forward direction. So we have defined the direction also. If you go back to this field, we have defined the direction. So direction tells us that when you start to search for the delimiter, move it in the direction of forward. So forward is moving from here. We move here, 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 here. First space. Yeah, now I have the first space. What action do you want to take? The action is after that delimiter substring the text. So this is the after one. So anything which is after the single space will be pulled in. In the other field, we are looking at still the same thing, but this is now called as before the delimiter. So anything which is before the delimiter, which is our single space, pull the field. And now it will be reflected here. So I hope you get the difference between both the two of them. There are two other things we can do is, defining two delimiter types. We have seen this as part of us slides yesterday, where you can define a start delimiter and end delimiter. So anything which is between those two will be included. It looks for the first occurrence of these two based on the direction that you define. I mean, look at from the start of it or look at from the backwards direction, so you can define it. And that will something that I'll leave up to you to basically see when you go into the tenant. Choose a substring type as between delimiter, or there's another one which is called fixed length, where you define the starting position and then you define the let's say the amount of digits you want to substring. So if you define it 10, then it will substring the 10 of them. So I will really encourage you to go ahead and test the other two as well, so that you can get a feel of how do you actually do it. You can also play around with the directions from forward to backwards, and you will see in action that when you move it to backwards, the substring will start from the end of the line, end of the characters, and then it moves in the backward direction and search for the delimiter value. Single space in this case could be open bracket in your case, and so on. So yeah, I mean, that's something that you can try it out once you get access to the tenant. And if you already have the access to the tenant, you can just try it out. Okay, moving on to the next type of function, and this is a function which is widely used again. This function is called text length. You will see that text lengths are normally being used when we are trying to see the amount of digits of amount of characters that has been used. So so text length will, as you're seeing over here as well, um, this is the primary address line 1 with a value of 10 Pine Street. So how many characters with spaces does this have? So the length is 14 here. Then the next one is this one, the 18. So whenever you are asked to provide the length of the text field, which is present, we use the text length feature. And this comes in handy at times, when there's a restriction you want to set on the primary address line, the length. So if you want to set a restriction that you can't enter primary address line 1 greater than 12 characters including spaces, that's how it comes handy. So I think you have seen it, these validations before as well, right, where you are trying to enter something but it doesn't allow you because either you have entered it either less than what is recommended or more than what is recommended. So when these type of validations you have to create, where you want to either know how many characters are being entered, or you want to set a restriction of how many you should enter, minimum or maximum. That's where the text length comes in. I'll not pull this in a report and tell you how it looks like, but we'll just quickly create one to just see how it looks when we try to create one. So the business object will, again, I'll take as worker. The field name that I'll do is text length. What do you call it? Home address length. Okay, let's look at that. Sorry. And the function that I'm trying to perform here is I can just search it out. Another way to pull it, text length. Okay, I'll click OK. Okay, what field? It's as simple as that. What field, length I want to check. So I'm looking at address, primary address full, right? The one thing we are using, primary address and full. Okay. So this is what I'm trying to pull. So when things will be evaluated, right? You will see that this is the address. It will just give you the value of number of characters, including spaces this particular field has when I will add this field to the report. Again, something that you can try. It's very straightforward. It's something that, as I said, is used for validations, or maybe you want to just check and give a provider record to your business saying how many people are entering addresses greater than 20 characters, right? Let's say. So that's when these things are handy, but it's again a very special business scenario where you have to create these fields. Okay, that brings us into
Sorry, question.
Yes.
Where do you specify the text length here, number of characters? Does it well, for instance, you picked the text field primary address full, right? If it's greater than 14 characters, do we specify somewhere here or what? Thank you.
Yeah, so you can specify it as part of your report filters example, right? So again, reporting as a whole is a new topic, but if I want to set a restriction saying that don't pull in, or maybe just pull in home addresses with a text length greater than 10 characters, I can define it here. Okay, so how does it function? I'll just quickly show you. So I've created this field, right? TL home address length. So I want to see employees who have entered the home address greater than 20 characters, let's say, right? Oops. It will only allow, it's a simple report. It will not allow me to pull in the calculated fields here, which is a bummer. Okay, let me see if I can pull this. Okay, I think now it should allow me. Oh, it doesn't allow me. Okay, but long story short, you can pull this as part of, this is a simple type report type. It doesn't allow you to pull the calculated fields as part of your filter conditions because of the optimization and how quickly the results it displays. But as part of the report type being advanced, you can pull this field as part of the filter conditions in our report. Specify that this length is greater than 20, then only give us the results as part of your report.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so that's where you can basically specify it. Another use cases as part of the business processes, you can put a condition saying that if you want to put an address, its length should always be greater than 20 characters or something. So that's the two use cases where you can use these text lengths as well.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Great. I'll quickly move to the what we are going to discuss today. So there's another topic called evaluating conditions. And you will see a lot of times where these evaluating conditions will be provided to you while you create reports for either integration users, or if you want to do a mass uploads to other systems. or to Workday as well. If you want to update some data through Excel files from one tenant to another, from one system to another, that's where evaluating conditions really comes in handy. And I've seen the integration reports, right? The reports which has been used as part of integrating two systems. The evaluating conditions comes in really, really handy, because that's where you are mapping the values of the other system with the Workday system. So how does it come along? What function we are using? How do we specify those values? What condition we put in to evaluate? This is what we're going to see in action. So disclaimer before we move ahead. The agenda, the next, maybe next session and the next session will be able to cover these topics. Text constants we have already seen. We are going to look at the date constants, just like the text constants and numeric constants. We are also going to see the date constant. We can create date constants as well. We're going to see a new function called true and false conditions. True and false conditions are basically a type of function which gives you a yes and no. If the condition is true, let's say, if do I have a home address? Oh, so we have seen this field called primary address full, right? So if a condition saying, do an employee have full address primary not blank, give me a yes. Otherwise, give me a no. So I can create a condition like this attached to a report and see in action for the evaluation purpose. And now, based on these three fields, we'll be creating some evaluated expressions, which is like, if the employee has a primary address, give me a value called no address found. If the employee doesn't have the primary address blank, give me the value called address is found, address is available maybe. So if you want to really create logical condition and evaluate based on the conditions, that's where we use evaluated expressions. You can plan your calculated fields is evaluated expressions runs in a systematic manner. So how do you plan to create your calculated fields? Another topic that we'll discuss. Another topic that another function is going to be discussed is of the lookup range band. Sometimes you want to define some ranges to evaluate expression. So I say employees with salary less than $50,000 should be from $0 to $50,000 should be giving out a value of low salary range. Anything which is above from 50 to $100,000 should be given as average salary band, and anything below should be higher salary. So if you want to basically define it in a range band, we'll be using this lookup range band function, and we'll then see the difference between these two, because this can be achieved from this one as well. But how does it differ? How does it, how your lookup range band makes your life easier, how it's more quicker and when we see it. So the first thing we are seeing is the text constant. So, the example that I just gave you, right? If you wanna really deliver a value that if anyone who has a salary range from, let's say, $50,000 to $100,000 should have a compensation level saying medium. Anyone above $100,000 should have a compensation level says high. So these high, medium, these values, right? These are not Workday delivered values. These are text constants we have created. And these are reflected because the constants values we have created. We are now evaluating based on the conditions we are putting in place as part of the other calculated fields. So we create these text fields of medium, text constants of medium, high, low, and then we use them as part of the calculated field, which is the evaluated expression and the lookup range band. I'll just create these when we move to the evaluated expression field, because these are all part of it. We are just learning how this is the one function that is also available called text constant. Another constant is the date difference. Sorry, the date constant. Just like the text constant, the numeric constant, you can also create date constant. So this is useful when you need to actually, basically measure a specific date against other dates. We have seen this particular function, right? The date difference function, where you, and we have evaluated the tenure, right? In this end date field, that day we used the current effective date, right? Or today, we have used today, right? Instead of today, you can also define a particular field. So what I say is, give me the range, give me the tenure, basically, number of days from the employee's hire date till 1/1/2022. That is the start of the year, the first day of the year. So if I am very specific about the date I want to enter, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a date constant of 1/1/2022, and then I'm going to pull it at part of my end date field. That way, I am basically saying that, and the value returned will be in number of days. So that way I'm saying that start date will be hire date and the end date will be 1/1/2022. So you'll have the number of date from hire date till that particular end date, and you will have all the values fashioned there. I hope that makes sense, right? So these are the text constant and the date constants you can create, and you can use it as part of the downstream fields. Okay, I'll basically come to the true and false conditions. True and false conditions are, and we'll see this in action for sure when we move to the evaluated expression. Here is the evaluated expression. So, but just to give you a summary, the true and false conditions determines whatever condition we are putting in is true or not. The return type of this value is a Boolean, so it's going to be either true or either false. Sometimes it says also yes and no. And this can be used in several places. It can be used in custom reports, the condition rules of business processes, as part of other calculated fields, and we'll use it as part of our function called evaluated expressions. How do you see it? Yeah, I've seen it being used as part of condition rules all the time. That is part of the business process, saying that route this approval to manager or director if the salary range is defined for this worker is about $100,000. So when you have to create a condition like this, then you basically create these true and false conditions, which basically where we define that if the salary is above $100,000, then give me a yes, give me a true, right? Same with the custom reporting. So we create these fields and we allow it to give us values of yes and no, or true and false, so that we can actually make better reporting decisions based on the condition we are putting in. So we can actually use parentheses, and we can basically create a nested type of true and false condition. So if you look at this particular field, right, it's a field name called flight risk based out of the business object worker. So the first thing is this will give you a value of true or false, but it's a huge value, huge thing, right? So employee is not empty. That means the employee should exist. Another parenthesis I'm putting in. So if I'm putting a parenthesis, so that means we'll be evaluating this first before we move out of this. So the value is if the employee is 45 years or older, yes. Does the employee has independence? Yes. If the employee has marital status of married, yes. Okay. And if the employee is not empty, right? This is this basically completes one section of this field. So if all three are, let's say, agreed, all three are satisfied for the employee, it will give us yes here. And then there is or condition to it. So if it's an or condition, that means we can ignore all this. And if this is true, then this is true. So this high retention risk, yes. If we have a direct field of high retention risk as well. So if the employee has a high retention risk as yes, that means it's an employee which can really have a list risk to leave the organization. Another or field, that is, if the employee has more than 50K stock options and the percent of stock options vested is greater than 0.8, right? So if the employee have, a significant amount of stocks available with him, the company's stocks, and he has already vested around 80% of the stocks, that means he has a possibility of moving out. So the employee needs to basically, put this into their account that we have a possibility of someone who can leave the organization, right? So this is a whole true false condition that we have created that can give us basically if the employee has a risk to leaving the organization or not, based on the conditions we have put in place. So so the parenthesis comes into play where we are evaluating more than one condition to satisfy one of the business scenarios. The business scenario here is, give me the employee names which has a huge risk of leaving the organization. And how do I evaluate it? I evaluated it based on the first condition that is common for all this is the employee is not empty. So whoever person is, it should be an employee of the organization. It should not be a contractor. It should not be an intern. It should be an employee to really being evaluated. And then there are 3 conditions. If any one of them is true, then we should be fine. So I hope this is something that you're able to relate, where you create condition rules based on the the business scenarios provided by the business. So here we have 3 business scenarios that is possible for an employee to basically leave the organization.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So in this situation, if employee is an employee, clear, right? That's condition 1. Then the condition 2 is if he's 45-year-old, right? Then the condition is if he has, for instance, next one is high retention risk, right? The and or combination here, it's going to pull. This is going to give us yes if any of this condition is true, right? He might be on a 45-year-old, or he has to be high retention risk, or he has to have 80% stocks. And if any of the, not any, but yeah, if any of the condition is met, this is going to give us yes, right?
That's the right understanding. So we are looking, the or conditions are after the parenthesis close for the above one. So this is gonna, if this is the and these are in end conditions, right? So if either these 3 are satisfied, or if this one is satisfied, or the below 2 are satisfied, if any of them has given me a yes, then I'm and the employee is not empty, then I'm gonna say that the employee has a flight risk.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, perfect. So this is basically a task where we create a field to indicate whether the employee is highly compensated. And these are all the tasks we can do where we can create fields. And I'm going to create one of them just to see really how it how it is reflected. But we're going to create a cal field which is to indicate if the employee is highly compensated. Okay, so let's move on to the tenant. Okay, so we'll be creating a new field of function being true and false condition. So I'm going to say true, false, employee high comp. Okay. The business object is compensation is again associated with the worker directly. So we'll take the business object as worker. And the function that we are looking at is true and false. Perfect. Now, what I'm looking at? I'm looking at a condition saying, give me the set of employees who have a salary. And for me, the high compensation is anyone above $100,000. Okay. So give me a set of employees who have a high compensation, that is, who have a salary range of more than $100,000. So if you look at this field, right, this field has 4 entries that we have to fill out. The field is going to be the one that we are going to compare it to. The comparison value is going to be what value we're comparing it to. So the field that we'll be looking at is salary here. So I'm gonna skip all the calculated fields. I'm gonna just I only rely on the value as of now, which is created either by me or either the Workday delivers to me. Okay, so I'm gonna just say what is the best way for me? Maybe I should be looking at the total base pay, which is okay. So total base pay could be the field, right? Total base pay amount. This is awesome. Okay. What does it say? The base pay for an employee's primary job. This is the sum of employees' comp element that is considered base pay. Remember, is different by currency and frequency. Okay, this is good. Okay, so I'm gonna take the total base pay amount here. What does it give me? Oh, it's fine. Man. Sometimes work to behave very odd, so please bear with me. What? Oh no. I think I have some. Oh no. So Workday has went into its basically the service update that goes it every weekend. So we don't have access to tenants now for another 6 hours.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's on Friday at 6 p.m., right?
I think it's around 10 p.m. Pacific every day. So yeah. On Friday evenings.
Yeah, 6 p.m.
Yeah. So this has gone into the refresh, right? The refresh window, the service update window, which happens every weekend. So we don't have access to tenant to really look into the cal fields, but we'll be holding this for our next call. So what we are going to do, and I'm going to make sure that you have the access to the tenants before, so that you can actually do something and you just try it out on your weekend, if that is fine. But we'll be looking at the true false conditions in the next class, and the major one, which is the validated expressions, and how does the validated expressions really returns the value based on the conditions we define. So yeah, see, it basically this is how it works. I mean, if you have ever familiarized with any of the language in the past, so it basically works in the if logic, where if this condition is true, and this is basically validated from top to the bottom. So if this condition is true, give me this value, ignore the other ones. If this is not true, look at the other one, give me this value, and so on. If nothing is true, give me the default value which is specified here. So this works in a way of going from up from here, and if nothing is satisfied, give me the default value. So we'll see it in action. All we are using here is the text constants. All we are using here is the true and false conditions. And based on this, we are basically returning values. So evaluated expression as a whole is evaluating values based on the conditions and then returning out the text constants. It's going to be fun. We'll see it in the next class. Then we'll be looking at planning the calculated fields. How do you keep, which one do you keep the top, which one do you keep in the middle, which one do you keep at the low? So if you design a calculated field, it should be very in the optimized manner, because Workday as a whole has, once you start working with Workday, the data keeps increasing. So if you don't optimize your calculated fields, the calculated time, the evaluation time will be high. That means you're putting a lot of load on your tenants and the performance of the tenant. So it's always recommended to create the calculated field in the best optimized manner. And for that, we have to really create our particular calculated fields in a manner that it has a low performance issues. So how do you plan it? Which one do you keep at the top when you create evals? Which one do you keep at the bottom? Why do we keep it something at the top? Why do we keep something at the bottom? How do you plan and build your configure your cal fields? We'll see it as part of this particular section called planning your calculated fields. So yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. How do you design and how do you build it? So we'll see it more in action when we really get into this topic, but just an idea that text constants will be the field that we'll be using for all of them. True and false condition will be true for few folks. Evaluated expression will be true for even lesser folks, and level of compensation will be same for even lesser population. So based on the type of values that we will see against workers, so we will see low, medium, and high for a lot of employees, because it's going to be same, right? True and false condition will be same for fewer folks, so we'll have it here. Evaluated expression will be even same for even lesser folks, and level of comp will be same for very less folks, right? So when you do a top to down approach, how do you define your cal fields? How do you put them? How do you design your cal fields? It's going to play an important role as well. So we'll see it once we move to that section. Another topic, and which is the last topic of this particular evaluated expression and evaluation, and when you do the evaluation, is the lookup range band. This is kind of similar to the evaluated expression field, but it's different in a way because we are now looking at a range to give us the value rather than looking at a specific condition. So if you look at the lookup range band, it takes in a from value, it takes in a to value, and then it gives us a return value. So now we are looking at a range to give us a return value. If you look at the evaluated expression, it has only the conditions and the return value. It doesn't have a range defined to it. But when we come down to the lookup range band function, it gives you the from value and the to value so that you can define a range, and then basically based on if your values falls into that range, give me the return value. One example that I've already told you is about the salary increase. I told you about the salary percentage, but similar to that, you can have a salary increase percentage band as well. If employee has a 0 to 10% of salary increase, maybe just say that low salary increment, 10 to 20, maybe medium, and anything about 10 and above will be high salary increment. So you can define a range here as well, which is from and to, and based on that, we can return the results. The length of service, 0 to 5, 0 to 1 years are new, 1 to 5 are medium, and anyone who has 5 years of plus experience is experienced. So you can basically define it here. Customer and supply invoices as well. So who are our old customers, who are our new customers. You can define it by basically defining it from the from and to values. Then we'll move on to the different. Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah, go to the previous slide, please, to that
Yes.
date range. So you have the return value column, 0 to 30 days, 31 to 60 days, and all these values are they? One can enter there directly, or these are text constants again?
These are text constants. Good question. These are text constants.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. A lot of work.
Yeah. So again, anything which and these values, right? 1 to 1, 150. These could be numeric constants. So we'll search it out when we go to that field. But if we don't find it, the only way is to create them, right? So the 61, 90, 151, 180, if they're not available readily, then we create the numeric constant and just pull them here.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. The last topic of this will be the difference between these two, because what can be achieved through lookup range band can also be achieved through evaluated expression. The other way is not true. You can't basically have all things achieved from evaluated expression from the lookup range band, but where does the lookup range band comes in handy is gonna be a question, right? We will basically see it once we actually have created both of them. Otherwise, I don't want to make a comment on, because you'll not be able to visualize that what difference does both of them holds, because they're kind of doing the same things. I mean, giving us values against the conditions we are putting in. So you can also create a calculated field, right? A true and false condition saying, if the number of days are ranging from 0 to 30, give me this particular range. I can actually do it as part of the evaluated expression. So where does the lookup range band really comes into play? So we'll see it once we actually create those fields, but just for a short description, it comes in handy because it has a from and to value already specified. And it's a performance thing. It's a better way to do it. And it doesn't impact your system as a whole, because you're using what is already being delivered by the Workday for us to create, rather than doing a custom way while we basically do it in the evaluated expressions, which is like this. But I want to pause here and basically, since we have no control over the Workday refresh, the Workday, that's the update which happens every weekend, the refresh. So we'll move on to this on next the Monday, and I am gonna be making sure that you have the tenant access, so that you can actually, and the LMS access also, so that you can actually see whatever we are actually actually we are seeing in action as well. Once you have both the access, you can really go in and test it out things, play just around with cal fields, and ask any questions you have. But before we close, do you have any questions, anything I want to address?
If I may, if I could ask this question,
Yes.
you mentioned that the more conditions you build across true and false calculated fields, then the concern is getting that optimal, so it doesn't affect the performance. Is there any way that one could check, or how do I make that judgment that this condition is not going to be burden for the system or not?
I mean, normally you will have your report indicating which field is basically taking a lot of time. Okay, so Workday has introduced this thing called report logs. Okay, where you basically attach your calculated fields to a report, and then you attach this report to the report, this reporting logs task in Workday. So that reporting logs will basically run the report in the background and gives you a time frame of which calculated field is taking what time. Does it make sense?
Absolutely. Is that functionality available now, or is that how we're going to be?
It is. Yeah, I mean, Workday rolled out this, I think, a couple of years back.
Okay.
But we have been using it very extensively to really improve our reporting and field performances as well.
I would really appreciate if you could show that when you have a moment, when my tenant is back. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do that. Yeah. But I would like to end here, and please feel free to jot down your questions and come to me anytime. available, and you can reach out to the team as well if you have any questions, and I'm going to make sure you have the access as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, Upbeat. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah.
All.
Thank you for attending the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below, and we will reply to them at the earliest.